I used to be like a really extreme saver. Only bought clothes from the thrift store. My couch was free from Craigslist. I would only go out to dinner when other people were paying for it. Maybe it was a bit too extreme. Focusing on saving money really hurt my finances and can actually be one of the main reasons why you're broke. So even though frugal living and saving money is really important and it's this thing that we all hear, it's almost impossible to reach financial freedom and really set yourself up for success if you're hyper focused on saving money. All right, let's talk about some of the pros and cons of this like frugal living, saving money mindset. First of all, these are super important, especially when you're saving up your first $1,000, first 10,000, up to 25,000. I think your main focus should actually be saving money because that's the fastest thing that most people can do. We can't always earn more immediately, but we can almost always spend less immediately. Plus, it's a lot more efficient because like if you don't spend 10 bucks, that's about $13 less that you have to earn because taxes. So cutting expenses is one of the fastest things that you can do to kind of get yourself out of debt, start building up an emergency fund, all that kind of stuff. I think we all know some of the benefits of saving money, and there are a lot, but I want to talk about some of the cons that I've experienced and I think a lot of other people do as well, and then how I was able to break out of that and actually start building some actual wealth, which in turn bought me freedom, which is I think what most of us are after. First of all, it gave me an extreme scarcity mindset. I still really struggle with this, where I always look at things as I will never be able to afford that, I can't have that, those are for other people. I always only looked at like what else I could kind of cut out and what I can do less of, instead of asking myself, how can I really expand to reach kind of next levels of actually building wealth? And I think when I had a scarcity mindset and I didn't think there was a lot of money out there, I earned way less. And then one of the things that actually helped me break this scarcity mindset was talking to people who were literally earning 10 times more than me. And I didn't think they were like, 10 times smarter or whatever. And they weren't doing like a ton more work. They were just putting in the same amount of effort, just at a much higher cap like opportunity. And they were willing to take risks with investing and stuff like that I wasn't willing to do because I was only focused on keeping what little money that I had instead of really focusing on trying to grow my wealth. So that's one thing I've struggled with most of my life because of my kind of frugal mindset. Another thing is missed opportunities. When I was always worried about losing my money and always looking at the downsides of things, like, oh, this investment could go up, but it could also go down, and I'm not willing to take that risk. I'm always like super hanging on to money. I did miss out on opportunities. I wouldn't spend money, investing into myself, investing into my health, investing into my well-being or my future because I was so worried about losing that money. So that can definitely happen. Then there's the time aspect of this, where I would try to save, $5 to $10 at a grocery store by going to different stores or maybe driving 15 minutes out of the way to get, 10 cents cheaper gas. And when I started to look at the return on my time, I realized how dumb I was being for a lot of that. Like if I'm going to spend, let's say, an hour of my life in order to save $10, I would gladly give up $10 to buy 1 hour of my life to do whatever I want. So a lot of times when we're trying to save money by DIYing things or by going to a bunch of different stores or whatever, like some of that can be great and can be a good thing and you can save a lot of money. But if you take it too extreme, then a lot of times you can just waste your time for very little money. And that really comes down to just not valuing, my own life enough. I don't value the time that my life is made out of enough. Then there's the actual stagnated financial growth. This is a result of something that I didn't realize when I was getting started, is that you cannot save your way to financial independence. It can give you the first step, it can get you out of debt, it can do a lot of things, but if you need to save up $1 million or multiple millions of dollars as it is now with the economy the way that it is, inflation and everything, then unless you're making crazy money, it's just never gonna happen. And that was the big shift that really made an impact on me, as I realized I was making, around the median salary. And even if I saved 90% of what I was making, it would still take me decades to reach financial freedom. And that was just not on the table for me. So that's when I realized that focusing so much on saving money was literally like destroying my chances at financial freedom. Doing something with the money that you have. Before we get to some of the wealth building steps, the first thing to do is make sure that the money that you're saving is not just dying on you. Cause like if you look at the cost of like anything 5 to 10 years ago to what it is now, a lot of things have like almost doubled. Kind of disgusting. So that means, let's say you saved $100 5-10 years ago, you could buy $50 worth of stuff with that $100 now. So if you're not doing something to battle inflation, then you're really just kind of shooting yourself in the foot. I make sure that I keep as little money as possible in my checkings account without like ever having overdraft fees and stuff. And then I keep everything in high interest savings account. I'm using one that earns 5% on Webull, but there's a bunch of them out there. You can use whatever you want. But the first thing to do with your money is not to just stuff it in a mattress, keep it in cash, or keep it in like a checkings account or a savings account that earning like 1%. At least try to keep up with inflation so that your money is not dying on you by using either the that high interest savings account or some type of investing. And there's a lot of options on how to invest, but that is something that most people, especially when they're frugal, are scared to do, is to take any type of risks with this money that they have saved, even if they're guaranteeing the risk that money is just going to be worth less every single year. The next thing I did was to make longer term financial plans broken down into shorter term financial plans. So I think most people, when they're saving money, they don't have a designated thing that once I save X amount, I will reach freedom, or I'll buy this investment, or will do whatever. They're just saving money in order to save money, and they never have a plan to reach financial freedom. For me, I spent almost 5 years saving up my first $25,000 because I knew that once I reached that $25,000, I would be able to buy my first rental with like a 3.5% down loan where I wouldn't put a lot of money into it. But if I never had that goal of once I reach this, then I will do this, and then I'll buy the next one and the next one, and be able to leave my job and all the stuff that's happened because of that first step, then I probably wouldn't have saved up that money. I wouldn't have, had the courage to take that step and learned enough valuable things because I knew what I was trying to accomplish. So while saving money is great, if you're not saving it for a reason like to invest, then it probably won't actually impact your life a ton. So normally I will try to make one 3 to 5 year goal for what my savings or earning goals are, and then I'll try to break that down into 90-day steps, because that's like short enough where you can't kick it down the road too much, but it's also long enough that you can actually see progress. Now I've done like whole videos on how to save 10K inside of a year and how I was able to actually do that, so you can check that out. I'll link it at the end of this video, but you really need to have a plan. And then you need to look at some investing options. I'm going to give the ones that I did and what I think are most approachable for most people, but every person in every circumstance is different. What is right for me is wrong for most people. What is right for you is probably wrong for me. There are so many different paths that you can go, and like once you break free of that scarcity mindset, you realize that people make money doing any of these things. People make money on the craziest businesses, on the craziest investments, on the simplest businesses and investments. You can have success in almost anything you do if you actually believe that you can do it and try for it for an extended period of time. The reason most people fail is because they get scared when the market goes down, they give up on their business too early, they aren't informed when they make large investments, and therefore they make big mistakes. The first investment that is right for most people is index funds. I invested $800 about 5 or 6 years ago, and that has turned into $1,500 at an average of 12% return. If you look back at like the history of index funds, that's about average. So just investing into like the S&P 500 or VTI on, like an app like Webull or whatever, if you're investing for the long term, then you can know that you're giving yourself a pretty good chance. Next up was the path that I took, which is real estate and house hacking. There's a lot that goes into this. I'll link a video below of like all about house hacking and different ways to do that, but that's one of the ways that I reached financial freedom. Then there's starting a business. This can be one of the highest ROIs, but also very risky. So I like to start things, like YouTube, where even if you fail at that thing, you will gain a lot of very valuable skills that you can use in other ways. Like even if I had failed at YouTube, I learned some skills that allowed me to do videography. It's allowed me to do acting. It's allowed me to make commercials for people, even besides, making money from actual YouTube itself. So looking for either a job or a business that will give you valuable skills that you can monetize even if that fails. Then if you're not trying to, retire early, there are things like investment accounts like a Roth IRA, 401k. You should definitely be investing into those if that is the strategy you're trying to do. But now let's get into actually earning more money, which is what you should focus on once you kind of like save what you can save. Once you've cut your expenses to what is, generally frugal, you're not wasting money, you might be able to save another 100 here or 200 there, but there's a zero chance that you'll be able to save maybe another $1,000 or $8,000 a month if you're not even, spending that much. And that's where actually earning more money becomes so important. And that's where most people get stuck into the saving thing, and they never shift into the thing that could make, maybe 10 times more impact on their lives, which is earning more. And that is where I got stuck for years. I'm out of coffee. That is disappointing. So let's talk about scalable jobs. When I learned about this idea, it's like something I'd never really thought about before. It made all the difference for me. I used to work at a cleaning company, and I was pretty much capped at what I could make there. It was like 50 something thousand, I believe, which was really cool for me at the time, but it had zero chance that I would ever make, 100,000 or 200,000 or like zero chance that any of that would ever happen, just because of the job that I was at. I could do the best job, I could work the hardest ever, and I would just never have that possibility of making more money. It just wasn't, an option. And then I learned about this idea of a scalable job. I really focused more on being a real estate agent because I thought that would be the thing that would work out. It turned out to be YouTube, and I'll talk about that in a second. But real estate or any type of sales is something that is almost infinitely scalable for a lot of people, meaning that I'm okay taking all the risks that if I sell one house, maybe I'll make $5,000 this year, but if I sell 10 houses, I might make 50,000. If I sell 20, I could make 100,000. If I sell 40, I could make 200,000. There is almost no no cap on how much you can earn if you do your job really, really well, but there's also no floor on what you earn. You can earn nothing. So while that's a lot riskier, if you're like a go-getter type of person and you want to reach financial independence and you don't want to wait the years and years and years it would take to actually earn more money at your job currently, then looking at different scalable jobs or starting your own side hustle that's scalable is where I really started to see, wealth start to build for me personally. And I think that's where most people get stuck, is even if they look for a side hustle, they look for something like driving for, Uber Eats, let's say. And while you can earn $100 a night delivering stuff, maybe that would be cool, that'd be great, you will never make money if you are not physically driving. Whereas if you start some type of business, yes, you could earn nothing for the first 6 months, but then you could earn, let's say, $20 a day every single day, whether you're working or not, as long as you just kind of keep the engine running. And that's why I've now focused so much onto YouTube, because each video that I make is like a digital asset that will pay me pretty much indefinitely. Even if it's a few cents or a few dollars a day, it'll pay me for years and years and years. And there's almost no cap on what can be earned if you want to keep pushing higher and higher and higher. And there's so many different scalable jobs out there. So whatever your skill set is, you can generally find some way to have a higher cap. So I want to walk you through a couple scenarios that really demonstrate these 2 points. Scenario 1 is the saver. Annual salary, $50,000, savings rate 20%. So they're saving $10K a year and they're earning 1.5% on their money. So they definitely aren't keeping it in a high interest savings account. After 10 years, they would have approximately $105,000. Now let's look at scenario 2, which we'll call the earner. Their salary is $50,000 a year, same salary, but they also started a business that averages another $25,000 a year, which maybe that was, not as much at the beginning, it was more later. So their total annual income is $75,000. Savings rate the same, 20%, so they're saving 15% per year and they're only earning 1.5%. But after 10 years, they will have $157,000. And if they got a higher interest on that money, which would not be hard to do, it could be way higher than that. So for final steps, make sure your money isn't losing money with a high interest savings account. I like Webull. Make a financial plan, which includes exploring different investment options and choosing what is right for you. Break that down into your action steps for the next 90 days. Either start a business that is scalable or look for a scalable job, or just consider moving your jobs, because research has shown that when you move jobs, a lot of times you can make more money, obviously if you're doing it in the correct way. And then the last thing is to subscribe to this channel because it is free, and I'll leave a link to those videos I talked about below somewhere. I don't know where they are actually. They're here.